Hello and welcome to another episode. It's been a while of the Ali Brown Coaching Podcast. We've just been chatting a bit before this. We've got, I can never say your actual full name. I just call you Sue.
That's fine.
Susanna O'Shaughnessy.
Yeah, there's far too many S's in that name.
Yeah, when I first met you, just like, just call me Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I struggle to say it.
Yeah. But it's been so long since we've done a podcast, and because the last 6 months have been crazy. Well, for me, and for me especially, in terms of getting the podcast done and getting the time. But we've been meaning to do it for about 6 months, haven't we?
But certainly since the end of June.
Yeah, I came around your house to pick up a monitor, and we were like, "Yes, we'll do it. We'll do it like tomorrow." And then 3 months later, we're doing it.
Yeah, you needed to rebuild your entire PC first, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Brand new PC.
And then you need a second screen.
Yeah, I bought 2 screens from you, and one after the other.
Yeah.
And then we're using brand new software to record the podcast on.
Yeah.
So we can do it remotely. So we'll see how this turns out. But I think it's okay so far.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. And you've got a nice turtle in the background for people that are actually watching it.
He's sort of trying to get into the screenshot a little bit.
Swimming around.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm kind of jealous. I do like.
Yeah, don't look too closely at the water. I think he needs cleaning out again.
It's okay. No one's going to know that. No one's going to.
On the basis that last time I tried to clean him out, I nearly flooded upstairs, which is just a typical Sue thing to do. Even for a little bit.
I've always wanted a pet. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
We've got quite a few here.
Yeah. Is that including Simon or just the animals?
I couldn't possibly say.
Anyway, we'll go back. I always go back because I always forget. My memory is awful. How did we first meet, or how did you first figure out that you could come to the triathlon coaching sessions and things?
Well, it was actually Jez Kirby who recommended I come to
coaching. Jeremy.
And so because I used to do quite a bit of cycling with him and Paul. They've joined me on some of my mad adventures, and they said, "Oh, well," because I'd said I'd wanted to give triathlon a go, but I wasn't really sure because I could only really do breaststroke. And Jez said, "Oh, we'll go to one of Ali's sessions and see how you get on." So that's
because you had a cycling background, quite a heavy cycling background, don't you?
Yeah, I tend to think of myself as a cyclist who occasionally runs and swims, but it's got the balance has got a bit better in the last couple of years.
Yeah. I remember you were saying that you used to do these so much cycling. The endurance you used to do was crazy.
Yeah, I kind of did about 10,000 miles a year on the bike, which was sustainable when I wasn't also running and swimming. And then it had to get into some kind of sensible balance and not quite so many junk miles at some point.
So you already knew who Jeremy was because he was coming to the Pershore swim sessions, and we had a with people that listen to the other podcast with Chris, with Charlie. Yeah. In a year, everyone just got improved so much. And it was like,
I think the first improvement you got was me swimming in a straight line.
Oh yeah, nearly every swim session you came to, you would then send me photos afterwards of your arms and the bruises down where you've smacked the lane rope with your arms.
Yeah.
So I was watching it and I called you a pinball machine.
Yeah, which is actually fairly accurate.
It legit, like that was legitimately what that was like, watching a pinball machine go down the lane.
I thought it is lane rope assisted steering.
Lane rope assisted steering, yeah. That is. I'm going to turn myself down. I think I'm a bit loud. There we go. I've limited myself a bit. That was quite funny.
Not entirely inaccurate, though.
No. And there was also recently someone sent me a picture of their arm who's just been coming to the other swim sessions that I do, and they had a massive bruise, huge bruise, like bigger than a 50 pence, like maybe like a £2 coin on their arm.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jesus, that's from smacking the lane ropes at the one in Worcester.
They are evil lane ropes if you catch them wrong.
I think I was saying because people are scared of hitting into or clashing with the person coming down the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But I always say that's preferable to hitting the lane rope because one, you're going to get hit anyway in a race, so it's good practice. You can kind of get used to it, and two, it will hurt each hit. It will hurt you less.
sharing the pain by hurting the other person.
Yeah, because it's kind of normal, isn't it? You end up hitting each other at some point if you're in a lane with.
And I tend to swim quite. It's taken you a while to get me to swim my arms actually out in front of me, because I think that they're out in front of me, but they're not. They're kind of like this.
Yeah, it's quite common because people are swimming in like in a timid way because they're like, oh, I don't want to touch it, I don't want to get in anyone's way, but it really affects their stroke then. So their hand entries are too narrow and they can cross over that center line.
Yeah,
which we were, so we kind of be trying to swim as wide as possible, be as wide as you can at the front, and then push down and brush past the hip still, and I've had to do that with a few. With one of the under 18s, I said, imagine, right, you've got a trolley in the aisle in a supermarket, and you want to go right down the middle, and everyone's in your way. You just gotta go for it. Just be as big as you can. That's your aisle. Just go straight down the middle of it, and don't mind about other people. Because she would immediately come in. Her arms would come in whenever she was around anybody else. I'm like, no, stay there. It's your trolley. It's your aisle. You stay there. They'll be fine.
Meg and I are quite lethal if we're both in the lane together, because neither of us have got any spatial awareness whatsoever.
Yeah, that's quite funny.
Yeah, because we often do end up in the same lane.
But again, that's good practice. Because you're going to get worse in a triathlon. Well, you have had worse.
You get smacked. You get people swimming over the top of you. It's definitely not a non-contact sport at that point of the race.
Yeah. So I remember it because it took us a bit of time to get the swim there, but we got it there, didn't we?
Yeah.
You made good progress in the pool.
Yeah, I'm no longer just not drowning, I feel.
You're always right. You're always like, you make yourself out to be like much worse than you are.
Psychologically, I think of myself as an athlete because I was always so rubbish at sport at school. And don't get me wrong, if you threw a ball to me, there'd be about 2% chance of me catching it.
Yeah, but Sue, you're blind. You can't see, so that's fine.
Lenses in when I could see. To clarify, I'm not actually blind, but I am extremely short-sighted, and it has caused problems in the swimming pool because it's very difficult to get prescription goggles that are strong enough for my prescription.
Yeah, and then there's always times when you've got to take the goggles off and not have anything on your eyes in like transitions and
my goggles don't come off until I'm actually found my bike, because there's no chance of me finding the bike otherwise.
Yeah. I think you and Hayley relate quite a lot on that one, don't you?
Yeah, I think I'm probably a little bit worse off than Hayley sight-wise, but she's. It was a case of we do need to have some prescription cycling.
Sorry,
carry on.
No, you can carry on if you want. I'm just laughing.
I make you laugh, Ali.
Sorry?
I always make you laugh because I am a complete disaster at some things.
It's funny. You are good entertainment, that's for sure. So let's talk about when you found out about the swimming sessions. Jeremy, I never called him Jez. I've always called him Jeremy. I don't know why. It's really weird.
I've just always known him as Jez. But...
Yeah. So Jeremy was already doing them. He told you about it. It says, right, okay. So what was in your mind then? What did you want to do? He said, yeah, I'm good with the cycling. What plans did you have? What were your aims, and why did you want to do it?
I don't know. I think I wanted to do it as a challenge because, I started cycling when I was already 32. It's really, I came into all of these sports quite late. I always said I couldn't run, and then I discovered I can, and I just can't sprint. And then I thought, okay, I can cycle and I can run. What if I could also add the swim and actually go and do a triathlon? Like, if I could do a triathlon, anybody can. Because I genuinely am not a very sporty person. Like, finish dead last at sports day every year. And it was just, for me, it was just a challenge, something to do that I never thought I'd be able to do.
I really like that. but so most people who are really not sporty in their childhood, maybe it's through their upbringing or whatever. What changed it? Because most people would then just remain that way and just never get into sport.
It was Si's fault.
Your other half, Si.
Yeah, my other half, Si, who is now really regretting his life choices. Not marrying me, just buying me a bike. I pretty much, when I started cycling, I loved it so much that I did it lots and lots and lots. And I guess because I discovered I was actually not so bad at that, I had a friend who said, I want to start racing. Why don't you come and have a go? And I joined the Midland Women's Time Trial Series 2015. So I started doing time trialing. So I sort of learnt about pushing my boundaries a bit and pushing past the comfort zone and going faster than I've gone before, and actually found that I got a real buzz from it. Did a bit of crit racing, not great at that, not great at cornering, but again, still got a real buzz out of it, especially when I wasn't getting lapped after I've been doing it for a couple of years. And I guess I'm kind of a competitive person, so the better I get at something, the more I want to do it.
Yeah. You've kept the enjoyment of it as well. It looks like you still enjoy it.
I still enjoy it. Even, when there was some time about a year ago where I wasn't feeling great. And sometimes the training was a chore, but it was, I was like, I've got this race that I'm preparing for. It's going to take me a long time to prepare for it. I will get past this point where I'm not enjoying it so much and I will start enjoying it again. And sure enough, I did.
Yeah. And because it's so easy to, when you start doing competitions and races and things, it's so easy to slip out of that enjoyment phase to you just feel like you have to do it, or now there's expectation that you do it, and you stop enjoying it, and that's when sport can go a bit, it can be less helpful for us in that way, can't it?
Yeah, and I think I'm guilty of this, where sometimes if you have a run of getting better and getting PBs all the time, you start wanting every single race to be a PB, and it's not going to work that way, not in reality. And there's things that are out of your control that can prevent you from doing as well as you could do in a race, and it's learning to actually still enjoy the race and to move on afterwards. And I think training with you, I have managed to reduce my negative mindset on that.
How has that been able to happen? How have you just had negative mindset? Is it the stuff I've been saying, or just how we do stuff?
I mean, one thing that I put a lot of pressure on myself ahead of Boston to get a PB. And you've always had a really good way of saying to me, look, it's just another day. You're just doing exactly what you've always done. Just go out and run. And I did.
Yeah. And then did that take the pressure off you a bit?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think my and a lot of people are bad at this. I put a lot of stress on myself to do as well as I can.
Yeah.
Or maybe to do better than I can, really, realistically sometimes.
Yeah, it's having those expectations, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you're kind of think, I really want this to happen, and I'm going to go into it, and then you're a bit nervous, you're a bit tense, and you can. The danger is you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But performances usually come when you are more relaxed in yourself and you're more like at peace with yourself, and when you're not trying so hard.
Yeah.
There's all that fear, isn't there? Like, if you try too hard, you don't get it. If you try less, you get it.
Yeah.
But that's key. And that's when I've seen a few people I coach have kind of gone through the same thing and then performed as a result of kind of acting like that they care a lot less, or act like you don't care at all and just go into it and just do it. And they go, oh, I did all right, actually. I did it recently with a runner who I'm going to be coaching, and she was saying that every run that she does, she kind of not enjoying it anymore, and kind of isn't really sure what to do to change her mindset. And I said, well, you've got you've entered I think there was a half marathon on that weekend. I was like, so let's just try something. Let's just empty your head completely, and literally your only aim of this half marathon is to go and enjoy it and ignore everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't wear a watch. She didn't look at anyone else. She didn't care about anything else. She just went and said, try and find the enjoyment in that race. And then afterwards she goes, I was like 3 or 4 seconds off my PB, and I just ran and I enjoyed it. And it was brilliant. So thanks. I was like, so the advice you give people can be so basic sometimes, but the hard thing is remembering the right, what they need to be doing, like the right piece of advice. The actual advice itself is basic, isn't it? Just go and enjoy it. But but it's so easy to forget.
Running on feel sometimes is better than, well, you'll argue it's always better than looking at your watch, but I am terrible because I do like the data afterwards. I'm a bit of a data fiend, but
you're like,
I won't necessarily be looking at my watch all the time unless I'm really struggling and I'm just trying to see how many miles I've got left.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for data. I think because of how we train, because we do effort levels, don't we?
Yeah.
And so we don't, in the session, we don't actually use the numbers and the data to dictate how hard or easy we're going in the session. But you love looking at the data afterwards, after the fact.
Yeah,
which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm not running looking at my watch and trying to see what my heart rate is or what pace I'm doing.
Yeah. So it's
I mean, if you set me a session that's like, I don't know, 2 minutes mad, 1 minute easy, etc., the watch is purely there to remind me when to go mad and when to go easy.
Mm-hmm. So how did you find? Because a lot of people, I guess, who don't understand it would be a bit kind of, not sure about that. I've not seen that before. I'm not sure if that I would like that or not. So when we first spoke about the 4 effort levels, easy, moderate, medium, mad, what did you think about it? And then how did you kind of learn it? And what was the process like?
I guess I kind of thought of it wrong in the first instance, in that I kind of thought of them as paces. So, for example, easy would be around about 10-minute mile pace, and the next one up would be around about 9. But I think now I kind of just, because I still, although I'm not actually training with you at the moment, I still use a lot of the same principles and stuff that I've learned while I was training with you. And I will think, well, okay, I know I need to go for an easy run today. An easy might mean one, if I'm tired, then easy will be slower than if I'm not tired. So I just go, does this feel easy? Do I feel like I could hold a conversation with somebody while I'm doing this? No? Okay, well, I need to slow down. And that's the sort of thing I think of now, rather than, what's it going to look like when it's uploaded to Strava?
Yeah.
That I don't still upload to Strava, but it doesn't rule my life anymore. It just helps me keep track of what I've done. Which
is amazing, I think.
Yeah.
Because
it's very easy to get stuck with the wrong mindset in things. And I think Strava, to a certain extent, it actually breeds a bad mindset, in that if you're always trying to get better or it compares people over segments and things, and it's just not helpful.
Yeah, it kind of, it doesn't really care. I'm talking about Strava doesn't care about Strava doesn't care about an individual's kind of own training plan or their program. Or it's like it's set up. It's a bit like Zwift in a way, to encourage that competition and that from the comparison with others, so that more people use the service. Yeah, and because they're driving customers to open the app and actually put stuff on it. So, and a lot of the time, if you say I coach a triathlete who I want them to go and have an easy session for one day, if they're more likely to try and go faster or be encouraged to go faster if they're on Strava, because other people will look at that and they'll start to send me messages going, "Oh, are you injured? What's wrong? What's this? What's that?" So there's all this peer pressure which they're expecting to come from every detail, every minute detail they post on Strava. And that and that thinking ahead in the future and thinking, oh, but if I do this, but what's going to happen then? That can really harm someone's athletic development. because they're thinking about something that doesn't.
And you're more likely to do yourself an injury if you're. I mean, you mentioned Zwift already. If you're doing if I was doing when I first started training with you, if I was doing an easy ride on Zwift, I'd just go, okay, open ride on Zwift, and then it will come up with a segment and say,
"Oh, let's go for it then."
I can't. I'm not supposed to. So I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And I just, if I've got to do an easy session on Zwift now, I'll just put in sort of like 60 minutes, 120 watts or something. You know, again, you don't talk with watts. You talk at levels, but you can turn that down. So if you're feeling tired, well, actually, this is too heavy.
You know where your watts are meant to be for easy. You know, all that's too high for that. Yeah. So you can
I only use Zwift because I've got a really short attention span.
Yeah. So Zwift is great for the people who, like, if you've got that self-discipline that, like, I know no matter how many segments are thrown my way and people trying to egg me on to race them, I'm going to stick to my plan because I see the bigger picture, and I've paid for a coach to write my training for me.
Absolutely. That's always been my thought. You know, when
you
I'm
said it.
Training. There's been times when I've been at the pool and I've seen Jeremy and he's gone, "Don't tell him I'm here. I'm not supposed to be swimming today." I'm like, say that now.
That's funny.
Okay, but you're paying him, so why are you here? I mean, I literally very autistically stuck to exactly what you sent me.
Yeah, in a weird way. I'm this because I have my own coach, Susie.
Yeah.
Similar name to you. And I'm the same. I'm like, every little thing I do, even if I go after work, if I'm going bouldering with people from work, I'll like tell her, I'm like, by the way, I'm going to do this. So just so you know, like I tell her everything. Because what's the point if I'm trusting her and she's planning all my training to reach certain aims, and then I just go and do extra things and don't tell them about it. I mean, I've heard stories where it's happened with athletes where the coach has actually seen the athlete in a race that they didn't know they were doing, and I go, "Oh, we didn't know you were doing that. We saw you in that event the other day. How did it go? Whatever." And they went, "No, I didn't do it. Oh, I wasn't there." I was like, "We saw you there. You were definitely there." I said, "No, I wasn't." I was like, it's quite funny.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if people don't want to do the whole, you plan the week out, if they don't want to do it all, that's fine. Like, they're probably still getting a lot out of the coaching, but you're not going to be, I feel like a school teacher, but they're the ones that are going to, miss out in a way. So if they're happy with what they're getting and they want to sneak in an extra few things, then so be it, and if that works for them, I guess that's fine.
I think I've sent you messages before. By the way, I've just taken Meg to the Lenches.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
I just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah. Extra swimming is actually fine.
You said that extra swimming's okay. So Jess was all right all those times.
Yeah. You just didn't tell me. Yeah.
I just did. I just waited 2 years.
Yeah. Well, by the way.
But I mean, the illustrating the point that I just kind of my belief is that if you're going to invest money in a coach, then you want to follow what they're giving you. Really, maybe not 100%, but mostly.
Yeah, and everyone's different, aren't they?
Yeah,
and there are a lot of people who I think for what I had to get used to. I think for some people, I banned the S word. The swap word. It's like I'm just going to swap Monday and Friday. I'm like, okay.
I think there was one that I'd run out of time to do. I think you'd given me as long as you want bike ride.
Oh yeah.
This be a long bike ride, and I end up only doing 20 miles, which fine. I know I say only 20 miles, but to me 20 miles isn't very far because I know, yeah. I'm in my head a cyclist who runs and swims.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd said I did actually then go out on the bike the next day for another 30 miles.
To kind of make it up, wasn't it? Yeah.
Make it up. But I thought I thought the logic of that was that you were wanting me to do a run the next day on tired legs, and I thought, well, they're not going to be tired enough.
So that's where you've it's so easy to overthink that, isn't it?
Overthinking. Yeah, that's I'm very good at.
Yeah. So how did you get used to doing the moderate, medium and mad?
I would say I've got better at them in running and in cycling. I'd say I still struggle a bit with moderate, medium and mad, because I don't feel it was swimming, that is, because I don't feel like I've got 3 speed settings, and you've probably noticed that when you've seen me in the pool. It's like, it looks a bit samey, Sue.
Yeah, well, we just got so in the pool. It's not the same when you're doing it in the pool. So for some people, it's like, as long as they've got a slow and a faster, then we're good.
Much got 2 speed settings in the pool.
Yeah,
maybe 3 at a push, but I definitely don't have 4.
Yeah,
but
which is fine.
Definitely with the running, I get the this, and actually going to the track helped a bit, because I think I was running too fast still when I was doing what was supposed to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take some getting used to, because I always ran at one pace. And so I was always used to my heart rate being at a particular level, unless I was actually racing, and then it was like sky high.
So can you get closer to the mic a bit?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm scared it's going to push out.
You don't?
That's better.
I've got quite a loud voice. I don't want to.
I know. I can see the lines going up and down, and sometimes it's not coming up.
Oh, okay.
But mine's really big. So
okay.
So you went. So the track really helped you develop those effort levels.
Yeah, because I think I was still doing what you would consider moderate when I was doing easy. So I did learn that I needed to get my easy to be a little bit slower.
Yeah,
but it was obviously still faster than walking, but it was a few effort levels lower than where I was currently at, thinking that was easy.
Yeah.
And I start off slow with my easy, and then I'll just find the speed creeping up if I'm not paying attention, because I've got a sort of a natural rhythm, shall we say.
Mm-hmm. And then what I noticed, I think we spoke about this as well, is there are some people who struggle to go mad. They've always got that limiter there. But you can get there quite easily and be working really hard, and you're quite weirdly comfortable in that state, aren't you?
I wouldn't want to do it for a very long time. Something that's really strange about me is that my 5K pace is not much different to my 10K pace, which is not much different to my half marathon pace. It's always about the same. There's not much different in it. But I do have an easy pace and a fast racing pace, but I don't race really much faster at 5K than I do at marathon.
Is that because? Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think once my heart rate gets to a certain level, it sort of stabilizes, and I'm capable of holding that for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just built for longer distance, because.
Yeah. You're just built a very special way, Sue, and it's very good. It's very good.
I've heard that said before. Special parts.
We're all special here. And then, because I remember when you were training for your first half distance Ironman, or your middle distance triathlon, and at the same time you were wanting to train for a marathon. So the actual triathlon and the marathon were quite close together. When they actually were.
The marathon was
1 or 2 weeks apart.
Of April. No, it wasn't quite that close. I think it was the beginning of April. I've done close more recently.
Yeah, you have.
I think the marathon was the beginning of April, and the first half iron was in the middle of June.
Yeah.
Middle of June was.
So we were kind of having to train for both at the same time.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't long enough to be in a separate training.
Yeah, you can't do it was like both at the same. So. No. So, because I remember, because this is related to you quite easily getting at mad and staying there, and that helped this process. So I remember learning about how Nicholas Spirig was training she was in the ITU series for triathlon, so sprints to standards, all through the year. But at the same time, she had entered the Swiss National Marathon Champs, and she wanted to go and do that. So it was, how could she train for the triathlon season and then also do the marathon at the same time? So remember when we would do on a Sunday, it would be like an hour in a pool of something like 50s or 100s, but all of them would pretty much be as fast as you could go, like heart rate through the roof.
Yeah.
And then transition kind of as quickly as you safely could without falling over and,
I think you used to say, get out, eat something.
Yeah. Get in.
Quickly as you can.
Get
go
dressed.
For a run.
Get changed.
Yeah, it's preferable to get dressed before you go for a run.
I mean, it's technically optional.
Or might be running at least 5 hours. No, I think I'll be all right in a swimming costume.
Yeah, you just might get a few looks.
Yeah.
And then the run would be, it was anywhere between an hour and an hour and a half, wasn't it? I think it was probably an hour and a half.
So
and that run would kind of start easy and maybe progress or something, or be all easy or whatever. I can't remember exactly.
I think there was a couple that were, you start easy and then sort of like 10 minutes easy, and then have marathon pace for about 15 minutes and then 5 minutes easy in between. Repeat that a few times.
Yeah. So then
which
that
always was a lot harder after 3,000 meters in the pool at full.
Absolutely. But kind of like the magic here was, you've only ran for an hour and a half, but because you've had that hour of your heart rate being so high and being worked so much before that, the effect on the body of that whole session was that you'd been running for a lot longer than that, so it counted, and it was as good as going out for a longer run than an hour and a half.
Yeah,
but you still got a really good swim in as well. So it's like, it just shows how the swim really complemented the run and helped a lot as well, because you got a marathon PB by doing this.
Yeah, and I'd been injured for a little while in the March, so I wasn't. I think I had a couple of weeks where I wasn't really able to do any running at all, and then I just had to sort of pull it back a little bit, and I think I got up to about 15.5 miles in total.
Remember you saying that to somebody? So like, I got a marathon PB, but I only ran as long as 15 miles. I was like, how?
When I went to Boston, I went to a park run, and then of course everybody who was at this park run was British, apart from a handful of people, because that's what British people do when they go abroad. They go to the local park run
the day before the event.
Sorry, I've got cats fighting outside my window. That's good.
Okay.
Well, no, it was 2 days, because it was a Monday. It was 2 days.
Of course, Boston was Monday.
And I said, so I got up to about 14 miles in training. He said, well, that's not going to be a PB then, is it?
Lo and behold. But you don't know what I did before that 14-mile run.
Yeah, absolutely. I swam for an hour and a half.
Yeah. It fascinates me in a way, because I like being efficient with time and smart in how we use our time and what we do when we've got a lot we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So what makes the most sense? And it's kind of not normally the well-trodden path that you go on. You kind of find a different way somewhere.
I was somebody who was dead set against using a turbo. I would go out if it was raining, if it was windy, not if it was snowing. That was about the only thing that was stopping me.
Or like black ice everywhere.
So I spent 6 years commuting to work on my bike. So I was kind of used to getting drenched and cold and wet and all the rest of it. And I kind of always thought that the turbo was a bit of a cop-out. But actually, you spend an hour on the turbo doing a hard session, you're going to get more out of it than if you spend 2 hours on the road. And if you're pushed for time, you get far more out of a turbo session than you would do out on the road. Yeah,
you can't freewheel on a turbo down a little hill.
No.
And also, it's quicker to get ready to get on a turbo. Less stuff to get ready.
Requires an awful lot less clothing in the winter as well.
Just pants.
padded shorts, I tend to find are a better idea. But yeah,
there was one time where I had a pair of cycling shorts and they were dead. They were like past,
well,
but I cut the padding out because I thought, oh, keep that. So I ran out. I didn't have any shorts for one day, so I just had pants, and then I just fed the padded bit from the old shorts in the pants. So I was on my turbo in my pants with a bit of padding in them.
yeah.
So
Fine when you live by yourself. When you live with your 29-year-old stepson, and he walks into the kitchen to find you on the turbo with your sports bra on. It's not good.
I know some people who probably wouldn't care about that. They're like, whatever, get over it.
He didn't stay around in the kitchen for very long.
Yeah, so much easier. But yeah, the turbo is brilliant because you're not you can't. There's no way. Well, you could fall off a turbo, but you can't crash.
I probably could.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening. but you're not going to get a big, very fast box of metal come and crash into you.
No, this is true. Yeah.
And you've got no traffic lights or anything, and we love doing these, 50 RPM big gear.
Do we love them?
We're a bit sadistic when it comes to that, aren't we? A bit. Do you feel a benefit from doing those? With your cycling background and all of it.
I have to admit my tendency is to spin. And even when I'm racing, I don't think I replicate that 50 RPM on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of building up muscle, then it's very efficient.
Yeah, I mean we're not going to be doing 50 RPM in an event. Absolutely no way.
Possibly if you're going up a hill and you've not got any gears left, but no.
Yeah, that's probably the only time that you would do it, isn't it?
You're just praying that you're going fast enough that you're not going to fall off.
But for time-pushed athletes, to build strength on a bike, an hour on the turbo, when you're going 1 minute, 50 RPM, you're probably in the top gear or close to it. 1 minute, sit there and do nothing. You're going to get a lot out of that and build a lot of strength quite quickly in those legs.
Yeah.
Rather than going outside for an hour and a half and just riding.
Yeah.
You can.
I still think that going outside for an hour and a half and riding is still good for my mental health every now and again.
Yes.
But when it's been as rubbish as it's been last week, I'm actually very glad for the turbo. Yeah. You know what? You actually have to get wet, see? There is another option.
Yeah. Well, you can just get wet by sweating a lot instead.
Yeah, that does happen. Even with a big industrial-sized fan.
Yes, I have one too, and I love it. And it is a lifesaver.
I wouldn't be without the fan, but it can only do so much.
Yeah, windows open, fan on, towel lining on the floor.
Yeah. Towel on the handlebars so you can keep mopping your face. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still a mess when you're finished.
But yeah, turbo is a good friend with that. So
I've learned to. I wouldn't say necessarily love the turbo, but it's definitely a better friend than it used to be.
Yeah, it's a useful tool.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I'm kind of really worried. I don't like riding outside because the roads are so dangerous here.
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate to be in a smaller town, and I've got access to quite nice, quiet roads from.
I can get to those too because we're not too far away, and I kind of use those small roads. I avoid the main roads, the A roads, and I find I've got a route that takes me all the way to Broadway Tower from Worcester.
Yeah.
I only have to nip on one A road for like the shortest period of time just to get to the next bit of country road. And,
you go through Pershore to get to.
Yeah, you go through the bottom of Pershore, but you have to jump on that main road for a little bit to get because you've got the river that goes through Pershore. There's only a few main roads that cross it. Yeah,
you can nip through Fladbury, but only if it's not flooded, which in the winter it generally is.
Yeah. So I kind of like studied a map. How can I get from here to here, not touching a main road?
Well, because I do cycle to work, and I worked in Worcester for when I would if I was still working in the office, I would be in Worcester now. But because I was commuting to Worcester a lot, I sort of got used to some of the traffic. And I guess I've been quite lucky in that I haven't ever in those 6 years had an issue with a car. I've had an issue with a deer coming home from work. I've had issue with black ice in the winter, but I haven't had an accident that's involved another vehicle. So I've been quite lucky. But
that's good.
That is good. I don't want to push that luck any further.
No, yeah, but that's very good. It's nice to hear. So you trained at the same time for your first half Ironman, which was Staffordshire 70.3.
Yeah.
And then there was the marathon not too long before that.
Yeah. So the marathon was at the beginning of April.
So how did the marathon go? And then how did the half Ironman go?
Well, the half Ironman was a PB because I've never done one before. But
and it was a very good time.
We'll
start with the marathon was first, wasn't it?
Start with the marathon. Yeah. So the marathon, my best time before coming to you was 3:41.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say 3:41. It was a virtual course, a virtual marathon, so it's hard to know. You've got GPS inconsistencies. So I had two different answers. One was 3:41, sorry, and the other one was 3:43. So I was going to go with 3:41 as my PB.
Makes sense.
As you do. And then I did 3:34 at Manchester. And although Manchester is advertised as being flat and fast, there's a very definite hilly section around mile 16, which is usually when you're starting to get quite tired in a marathon. And I think actually that was the very first time I've done a marathon and not been absolutely dying at mile 20, considering that I'd only got to 15 and a half miles in my training. So I was obviously doing something right.
Because you were super fit. If you look at all of your training, so the running as well as the cycling and the swimming, overall, you were really, really fit. So that's probably why, or a big factor as to why this time you didn't feel dead at mile 20.
Yeah. It's the first time I was just waiting for the wheels to come off. And
it's like, you're expecting them to come off.
19.9 miles.
What's happening? They're still on.
I've only got 3 miles to go and I'm still all right.
I love that. So did that surprise you at all, or did you just go, that's cool?
Yeah, it really did, because I completely doubted myself because I had that injury 6 weeks before. I think it was in March. So I think it was possibly even really close to the marathon, like 3 weeks before the marathon. And also because I feel like, because I've always followed the perceived wisdom that you have to do a 20-mile run before a marathon to know that you can get through it, I was really doubting that I was going to get a PB on only having gone to 15 and a half. And I was just, blown away. Just actually, you do need to trust this training suit. It does work.
I don't know if it was this time or a later time.
It was Boston.
Was it Boston?
I'm always going to trust the process from now on.
I got a text from you and it said, I've really doubted this, but I've done well, so I'm never going to question you again, Ali.
Wasn't it saying to you, it's not going to be a PB?
I just laughed. It was really funny. I'm like...
Thanks, Sue. That is what you pay me for.
No, but again, like, there's so many people who do question everything. And it's kind of, it's not a negative thing to question something. They're like, oh, I've never seen this before. I don't know if it worked, but obviously we've got examples of it where, I mean, it's worked for other people. That's why, I've learned about it and doing it, and the way of training, it's worked for us. So, but a lot of people don't believe that something would work until they see it work for themselves with their own eyes, with their own bodies. It's a weird human trait, isn't it? It's like, people don't believe that things can happen until they see it happen, rather than believe it can happen, but it's not happened yet. It's some kind of, people get brought down, their brains bring them back down to earth, or our brains. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because the other perceived wisdom is that you need to taper before every race.
Yes, but you do not have to.
Sometimes I would have liked to have tapered a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember the week before my full distance triathlon being like probably the heaviest week I'd had in all of my training. But I made it round. It was fine.
Yeah.
But like, for example, that when I said Boston, it was only 14 miles that I'd done in training. That was 8 days before the marathon. And that was with a swim before it. So there was no tapering there either. And that was fine as well.
Yeah. So there is like, sometimes tapering is really interesting as well. And it can be really misunderstood as well. Sometimes you can taper and lose fitness. So you turn up to the race day and you're not in a good physical condition to do it because you've lost fitness because you've tapered too much, because of everyone's like, for a marathon you taper for 2 weeks, but for some people they'll be so unfit then they lose all the fitness and they go and they can't do the marathon.
I'm grumpy as hell when I'm tapering as well.
But the way you train and the way you kind of your body functions, you tapering for too long was my professional judgment wasn't the best thing to do.
But I don't think there's necessarily the need either, because there probably is more of a need if you're running 22, 23 miles before a marathon.
Yeah,
like you probably do need more than a week off in between that. But if you're mixing up your training with other sports and maybe not doing just over half,
and it's more sustainable then as well in general, then and it's kind of like where they're like the state of the body is at and the mind, and at what point are we at the end of this training block, so this is the final race and then we recover properly, or are we at the beginning of we have like an 8-week block when we do the training cycle perfectly, where in that 8 weeks you can race as much as you want, but for the races before the last one you do not taper because you lose fitness and you lose your preparation for that one at the end, the one like at the end of the whole cycle. So for example, a sprint triathlon on a weekend would literally just replace a brick session that you would do. So if you're doing a normal week's training with a brick session, you don't taper for the brick session and you don't recover for the brick session. You just get on with it. So if you replace that brick session with a sprint triathlon, it's exactly the same. You just get on with it. You're not, the aim of the training isn't to perform at this sprint triathlon. It's to use it as practice, experience, and you're going to get a lot out of it. But there's, in your case, the half Ironman at the end of that block, which is what we're preparing for.
Well, interestingly, because I think the focus originally was the Manchester Marathon, because I wanted to get a Boston qualifying time. Where the first half iron that I did, first middle distance I did fell, was actually not at the end of a training block. So you actually said to me, you've actually got 4 weeks left of this training block. You might be wise to book in another race in a few weeks' time. And I did book in a race a few weeks' time, and I did that one an hour quicker than the one I'd done. I mean, you can't compare two triathlons because it depends a lot on like, there's no getting away from the fact that Stafford is hilly.
Yes.
The ride is hilly and the run is hilly. But one Cotswold Classic, which is the same as the 113 route, that was an off-road run. It's flat. So, but it was a very hot day. So, I mean, even if you do the same course twice, it's not gonna be the same conditions both times, is it? So,
no, I agree.
So the fact that the difference between being in the middle of a training block and doing a half iron, and then being at the end of a training block and doing another half iron, was for me an hour,
which is huge and it's super impressive. Massive. And it just so I think my thinking then was, you have all this fitness from doing your first one, and if we recover now, we're throwing away this fitness and this potential that you could carry on into the next one. So let's stick to that 8-week period of racing. Let's develop and improve on this, because we're not finished yet, and then we can recover. And that was and then you absolutely smashed it. It's like, brilliant. Love it.
So, I mean, I think I cried when I came over. I've cried a lot as I come over finish lines. I think I cried at Manchester.
Yeah.
my first half iron, and my second middle distance, I cried coming over that one because I realised it was under 5.5 hours. So
That's brilliant.
it's an emotional thing doing long distance sports. I think if you don't end up crying at some point during a race, then you've done something wrong, or at least that's how I feel.
I know, I agree. I cry a lot. I cry in races. Every single half iron middle distance I've done, I've had a cry at some point.
Yeah.
And the last one I did, across the finish line, sat on the floor and just bawled out crying. And yeah. It was that was Swansea. I think that was when it was 30 degrees.
Yeah, I remember. I think I did Barry 10K the same day, and I was really desperate to get a 10K PB because I got close to the half marathon, and I'd had the marathon early that year, and I was just like, no, it's too hot.
Yeah,
it's too
it
hot.
was well hot. There's a photo. I looked at the photos of the run recently, and I look like a drowned rat. I just look soaking wet, and I've got my tri-suit zipped down. Someone was chucking jugs of water over people, and it was. Yeah, so I think a cry can be really helpful. I don't know what it is, but do you find when you're crying during a race, do you feel like you get fueled by that emotion or that release of emotion? Does it give you an extra?
Somehow it almost seems to regulate your breathing a little bit.
Do you think?
Can't. It's physically impossible to sob.
Yeah, you have to fully cry, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I think it almost helps to center you a little bit if you, especially with a long event, like I would consider a half iron long because it takes 6 hours. Well, it takes me 6 hours.
It's definitely a long event.
Yeah, they're a long event. Longer than a marathon would take me nowadays.
Yeah.
And the full iron was full distance triathlon. I have to stop you saying Ironman because that's a brand.
It's fine.
It's fine. People know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the full distance, that was 13 hours long, and that was a very long day.
But it's interesting like that. So the crying kind of regulates your emotions.
Yeah, it helps keep you, because it's very easy to disappear into your head over a long event, I think.
Yes, and then you could get into a rut in a negative state of mind, and you can kind of mess it up. Your own head could mess it up a bit, but yeah, I find that as well. You kind of reset after a good cry, don't you?
Yeah.
It's really strange, but I really value. It's weird. I like having a really good cry when I'm racing.
I mean, people pass you think you're absolutely mad. But...
Yeah, but that's every day anyway, especially for me.
I couldn't possibly comment, Ali. I think most people think I'm mad, so.
Where the best people are a bit mad.
Well, certainly triathletes, you have to be a little bit unhinged, don't you?
Yeah.
To actually put yourself through that, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I last time I cried at the end of a race, I gave, when they give you the medal and they're all like in there, you're covered in every fluid you could imagine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I gave them a proper hug.
Yeah, thanks for that.
He looked at me and he went, really, like, it was kind of like he saw the funny side of it as well, thankfully, because I wasn't gonna. And then I leant over the barrier and cried.
When I finished my first middle distance triathlon, I didn't even see my husband because there was a very tall man stood next to him in a suit, and I'd never seen him in a suit.
Who was that poor man in his suit?
My coach. I think I was thrown back to actually see you in a suit. I was like, wow, he's really dressed up for this occasion, and I'm.
Well, it was your first middle distance, Sam's first, and Charlie's first.
Yeah, so and Sam and Charlie did absolutely amazingly, didn't they?
They are so good, and they're such lovely guys as well. Yeah. And it was all your first event. It's a special occasion. So I saw you all in the morning setting off with a swim, and then I had a friend who was doing it, who had a hotel room. I was like, I went for a run, I think. I was like, can I go and...
You were training in around everything else because you were training for Swansea, weren't you?
I can't remember. Probably, yeah. You probably know better than I do because my memory disappears. And they had a hotel room down the road, so I was like, so they let me go and use their shower and get changed, and then I drove to Stafford in my suit. And the first time Sam saw me, he just looked at me with that frowny, confused face. It was like, and he was on the run, on the run, racing, and I was like, "Go, Sam!" And he just goes, "What are you wearing?"
I think it took me about 3 months to work out which one Sam and which one was Sam and which one was Charlie. Always Sam and Charlie, and they're always together.
Yeah, they're joined at the hip, aren't they? Yeah. It's funny. Well, Charlie's been to track a good few times recently without Sam.
Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm. With his other half and the little uns, which has been quite nice. So yeah, they are seen separately sometimes.
I hadn't realised that Chloe ran as well until I saw her at the Worcester Run, and I think she was doing her first half marathon. I think she absolutely smashed it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. She gives it some. She gives it some going around the track. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good to see. And so yeah, it was a good occasion, but it was quite hot that day as well. So I did kind of it wasn't that comfortable wearing that suit for all of it.
No, I can't imagine it was.
But I'm happy I did because I like seeing people confused.
I was just talking to you, I just didn't realise that Simon stood right next to me.
Poor Si.
I know, I felt so bad. You're quite a lot taller than him. So I don't know. It was just because I was looking up to talk to you. I don't know.
No, it was. But that was a really, really good day. Really, really good.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed that. Once I'd done the swim, I did not like the swim. Not because I mean, the swimming sessions. Swimming in a pool is very different to swimming in a lake, and it was a very choppy lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd managed to get myself in the wrong place in the queue as well because I just very stupidly decided to go to the toilet at the very last.
I thought we'd lost you, Sue. I couldn't find you anywhere.
I genuinely think that Sam and Charlie were probably 10 miles into the bike ride before I even got in the lake.
And even they weren't in, ideally where they should have got in the water.
No, they got in, they
with the mass
where they thought they would be, but everybody else pushed themselves forward. Whereas I was probably one of the last people to get in the lake.
Yeah.
So then I was like, when I did actually finally get the courage to put my face in the water, I wasn't doing breaststroke anymore. I was just stuck behind a load of people doing breaststroke.
Yeah, and then you got to swim.
Not the best plan. No,
but I think it's so easy to forget it was your first one, so you have to. This I can bang on about things till the cows come home about where's best to be, but for the first one, it's like just go and do it, and you'll find out for yourself because you have to learn those things yourself rather than just someone else, saying, telling you about them. Because
I now know don't if it's self-seeding, make yourself, if anything, slightly faster.
Yeah.
Further up, because a lot of other people have done the same.
They all did the same. I mean, I thought I'd messed up at Swansea because I was just willy-nilly chatting to someone, stood, have you self-seed and they've got the markers out of how fast it is. I was stood between 20 and 25 minutes or something, right at the front of the age group kind of slots. And I looked and I was like, I can't really go back anymore. There's not room for me to get. I'll just stay here. So I kind of ended up. I think I was around the 25-minute mark on the board, but I got in, and I didn't feel out of place. And I think I did 31 minutes, and it was fine. So I was like, so now and then I knew next time I need to be at least at the 25-minute mark.
I never even thought of 25 minutes, but it takes me double that. Well, not quite, but. It's probably about 45 minutes for.
I used to be 45 minutes when I first started.
I could do an half iron distance in the pool in 38 minutes, but in open water it's just totally different.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's obviously I only see you a little bit now, don't I? When you come to the odd
Yeah,
session, um,
I do need to do third as well again soon.
um,
I'm sure I'm getting into bad habits again.
because the long term aim of how we swim, why we swim the way we do in a pool, is that so we have the really buoyant pool boy, and
Yeah.
and the method in which I was teaching you all how to swim, and still am for the people that come now. That is the same way that they can swim in open water. So what they do, just go and do the same as you do in the pool. So we swim in the pool how we want to swim in open water. The on top of that, there has got to be an element of being familiar in open water as well. So you have to be relaxed and then kind of not panic or not go, oh, I've not this sea's got it's a bit choppy here. I feel a bit on edge. So you have to have that level of comfort and confidence that, as well as that. So that's kind of like a bit of self-discovery sometimes as well. It takes a few times, and it takes just go and do open water, just go and swim, go and get used to it, go and feel comfortable in it, and then how we swim in a pool is exactly how you want to swim in open water. You're just going to do the same thing, swim the same method. And so that's where we want to kind of that's what the aim is anyway. That's what the aim is.
The thing I find hardest about swimming in open water is in the pool. I know I can turn my head to the side and I'll be able to breathe.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in open water, you turn your face to the side and it's still underwater.
Yeah.
Because especially at Stafford, that was what I find difficult at Stafford. So it did probably took me about 10 minutes to get my face in the water, and once it was in, it was fine. And it's familiarity and actually getting used to. I think there is value in swimming outdoors in between races. But you need to do the bulk of your training indoors because you've got far more control over certain aspects of it, and it's much easier to say do 120 lengths or whatever than to say you go round this loop 4 times.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, people might disagree, whatever. In my opinion, you can't do a training session in a lake.
No,
it is go out and just swim.
A different aspect in the lake.
The familiarity. As you say, getting used to. You might have to turn a bit more from the hips to side to breathe, to not, if it's a bit choppy, but to do a proper planned like training session for like 3K, sometimes more, sometimes less, then you can't do that in open water. You can't do reps of 25 meters open water, reps of 50s, where you're doing quality hard swimming with frequent rest, where you're going to really improve your stroke. So yeah, it's kind of like when we said earlier that optional extra swimming is fine. That's an example where like go to open water, just go and swim for a bit, get used to it. You might go and do 3 laps and only swim not even swim a K, but the value of it is elsewhere. It's not in the quality of training, it's in the experience and getting used to it, so that when you turn up on race day and it's a bit stormy and they've cut the swim short and it's a bit rough, you're like, but I'm all right because I've been in a lake a few times and all the sea and I'm used to it.
Yeah, and I'm still not great with choppy water, but I mean, I've been quite fortunate. I tend to choose races that have got a lake swim. I've not yet done one where it's a bay swim.
It's good fun running.
I'd probably enjoy the extra buoyancy, but I'm not sure I'd like the choppiness or getting a face full of salt.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste.
Or jellyfish. I'm not keen on the idea of jellyfish either, to be honest.
Oh, it depends if they're... At Swansea, there were loads. Every arm stroke, we were brushing jellyfish, but they didn't harm you. I don't think I don't think they could sting you, but like there were thousands of them everywhere.
Yeah,
and it freaked a lot of people out.
But then some people get freaked out about the idea of being in a lake with fish, don't they?
Well, there were fish with the jellyfish. There's a little fish. They do. Or the fact that they just sometimes get really freaked out and struggle with looking down and seeing black and they can't see anything. They really struggle with that. So yeah, there's all these things that people don't really think about, do they? And then they kind of realize down the line, oh, got to get used to this now. This is hard.
I actually prefer a deeper lake. I don't like it when you're in a shallow lake and your hands start brushing stuff that's on the bottom of the lake. That's no fun.
Yeah. Well, you might as well get up and run at that point.
Not run, but there was a bit of when I did my second half middle distance. It was the Cotswold one. The lake was particularly shallow at the time, and there was one section where you had to stand up
bit in the middle.
Yeah, and a lot of us were just trying our best to just keep pretending we were swimming through the sand. And at that point, it's just like, no, just get up.
Yeah, I remember them saying in the briefing, there's a bit in the middle where you could stand up, no problem, and it's really
the year before that you had to stand up because you physically couldn't swim it. I mean, if my knees were grazing the floor and my hand, I can imagine you'd have been stood up about a minute before me.
Yeah, that's kind of cheating, isn't it? Because you can just
I have to say, I did feel a little bit. I wonder if it would have been under 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
I think my swim was 42 minutes, and the best I've done since then is 45. So
because when I'm walking up and down the side of the pool watching you go, I walk very slowly, but I'm still like I still get there way before you swim there.
Yeah, but then you're not wading through water, are you?
No.
And you know what happens to a wetsuit when you stand up?
It just
starts pouring out the bottom.
Yeah, and it's a good time to do a wee if you want to.
That took me a little bit of time before I was able to do that in a body of water.
No, I think the last time was when there was an hour delay at the start, and we were all stood there at the start in our wetsuits, and it's like we're all squished in like sardines, just waiting to go at any minute, but we're there for an hour in total. Desperate for a wee. Well, you've got to go, haven't you? You can't just not go for a wee.
And when I was waiting in that line at Stafford, because that was at least an hour I was waiting that line, a woman in front of me walked to the side and put her leg up. I thought, what's she doing?
Put her leg up?
Yeah.
Well, like a dog?
There was like a barrier, and she hooked her foot over the top of it, and then there was liquid coming out of her leg. I thought,
what?
Discreet ways of doing that. So
she's doing a splits over a barrier with like...
she bent her knee, but it was just like there was far more comfortable ways of doing that. It's not going to stop your feet from getting wet, is it? And it's going to get wet anyway.
I think she needs to share some of her confidence around to the rest of us.
Well, yeah. So that's what she's doing. That's what she's done instead of getting in this line in the wrong place.
Just wee in nature and don't care who sees you do it. It's all fine. It's natural.
My brain was fine with the idea of me weeing in my wetsuit. It was my body that didn't want me to do it.
Yeah, because it's not natural, is it? It's not what you normally do, Sue. This isn't what I normally do. Do you sure you want to wee right now?
What a normal person does. This is what a triathlete does.
Yeah, we're a different breed now. The rules have changed, so it's fine, buddy. Just go with it. Are you sure?
Yeah. I didn't even get in the water and you still go, nope. But as soon as I get out again, I thought, maybe I've gone while I've been... No, I haven't, because I'm desperate for the loo now.
Going on the bike's hard. I've not been able to go on the bike before. I don't think you're allowed to. I don't know if you're allowed to either.
I don't know. I've never noticed puddles on the road.
No.
Apart from when
have you read Chrissy Wellington's book?
No.
Because someone was drafting her in... I don't know. And so she went for a wee to stop the... So the...
See where that was.
So it's like, do not draft me or you'll be covered in my wee. So...
Yeah, no, weeing on the bike is probably more difficult. I think accidentally weeing a little bit on the run happens anyway.
Yeah.
No, is that just me?
I guess everyone's got different pelvic floors, haven't they? And
I mean, I've not had children, and that still happens to me.
I have to stop to get started, and then I can carry on once I've started.
This conversation is going really badly down the line.
I think it's going uphill.
But it's the things that become normal when you've been doing triathlon for a little while.
Yeah. Trust me, most people who aren't involved in this will not be listening at this time into this podcast.
The worst one is when I was doing my full distance, because, like I said, 13 hours is a very long time, and I didn't think I was nervous about it, but the night before, I literally was up every hour, almost on the hour, needing to go to the loo. And I was like, okay, well, my body obviously thinks I'm nervous about this. Got to transition to put my bike up, and still needed to go to the loo. Like, how? So use the portaloo, get in the lake. It's like, really? Got out of the lake, got back to my bike again. It's like, really? And then that was it. Fine then, until I was in the last 2 miles of the run, and I was feeling like I was going to pass out, because I genuinely just had not been able to eat enough food to keep myself going for 13 hours. Only place I could go and sit down was in a portaloo. And as soon as I sat down, it's like my body said, you know what this is, Sue? So they're racing to get my tri-suit off as quickly as possible, because my body decided you've sat down on the loo, you're using it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a point in a triathlon where you've just got no dignity left. You're covered in every bodily fluid possible. Blood somewhere, which you've got a blister you didn't know was there until it was.
Yeah.
And you just, it's like, there's just no dignity left at that point.
No.
You don't care. You're actually beyond caring.
It's a beautiful place to be.
Actually, it's very freeing.
Liberating.
It's very freeing. Yeah. Just, there's not an awful lot of dignity attached to it.
We don't need dignity anymore, Sue.
No, I have to say that since I have been significantly less ladylike, not that I was ever particularly ladylike, but since finding sport, I've become less and less ladylike the more sport I've attached to it. So there was a little bit of ladylikeness left when I was cycling.
Do you think that just reflects the state of people in normal society these days, though?
I don't know. Do people in normal society put themselves through what we put ourselves through?
Then they probably would change and become a bit more relaxed.
I think you just don't stress about certain things. You just think about completing something rather than.
Oh, I can't do it that way because I'll be perceived to be like this. Just go and do it. Don't worry about it.
If it's good enough for Chrissy Wellington, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. Someone drafts
Though I imagine Chrissy Wellington's pretty much better at fueling than I am, and wouldn't find herself sat at a portaloo at mile 22.
Well, it takes a long time to get. You have to train your body to take on the fuel, and it's a whole different subject matter. So, it's like, so the first Ironman you do, you might only eat X amount, which is nowhere near what you should really be eating if you do the calculations. So and then
you just were to look at how many calories you're burning over the space of
I've got like a little formula of kind of, you take your body weight, whether you're male or female, and then it says how many calories you need to be taking on per hour.
Yeah.
And so I did it for me, and I could not get anywhere remotely close to it on the first half that I did. The second one, I doubled the amount I ate because my stomach got used to it and and knew what was coming, so it was ready to take on more food. And the third one I did, it took on even more, and the fourth one even more again. So every one you do, your body is like more prepared.
Yeah.
So it just takes more practice, and every one you do, you'll be able to take on more and more and more until you're somewhere in the area of you're getting enough fuel there now.
Yeah.
So, and then that naturally unlocks so much more. I haven't sworn yet at all. A shit ton more potential. If there's one.
Yeah, because I think actually under fueling can hold you back more than, well, not than under training, but it's just you can completely sabotage your race by not taking on enough fuel.
If Chrissy Wellington turned up in her prime, right up next to you, if she didn't eat, you'd beat her.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, in an Ironman, if she didn't eat or drink, you
can't. There is no way. It's a completely.
She wouldn't finish the race.
Yeah, you can maybe blag a sprint or a standard,
Yeah, you can.
you can be almost dying on a half, but there is no way you'll even complete a full distance without taking a
and it
lot of
has to
food.
be factored into the training, kind of how they train as well. So on a long ride, if it's a long ride on a weekend, I'd like ride right into the training. Go out and eat as much as you can on this ride, or on the run.
Yeah.
Go out and eat as much as you can on this run. Just eat, even if you don't feel hungry. Just eat, because you've got to get your stomach used to taking on food whilst you're running, because it's weird and it's hard to do.
Yeah. Something I struggle with quite a lot is eating on the bike, because I'm quite rigid up here. I'm not got great core strength, so I'm not very keen on taking my hands off the handlebars. So actually being able to ride and eat and drink at the same time for me is a big achievement.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can only do. You're not going to learn to do that on the turbo.
No.
Nothing.
You can go woo.
No. So it's something you do have to practice outdoors. And it does take practice. For me, for a lot of people, probably wouldn't take that much.
I think
practice.
you'd be surprised. I think most people it would take a lot of practice, because it is hard.
But yeah, I've learned now when to do it, so I know that if I'm going up a hill, that's the right time to actually take my hands off the handlebars. Because for me, I feel like I've got more control over the bike when I'm pushing. If I'm going down a hill, I want to be near the brakes.
Yeah, you want to have control and be able to react.
And I don't ride. I just ride a normal road bike. I don't even have clip-on aero bars on my bike. It's something I've never, even when I was time trialing loads, it's something I've never felt the need to do. And I quite often overtake people who are on aero bikes, but it may be something that I do in the future. But that'll be another thing that I need to then train myself to ride in that position, because it feels very different in that position than it does even just being on the drops on a road bike.
Yeah. And there's a lot more trust.
Everything's much closer together.
Yeah.
If you're on the drops, your arms are wider, so you just automatically got more
stability.
Yeah.
And also, when you're on the bars, you are nowhere near the brakes.
No, absolutely.
So you can't react very quickly.
No, my reaction times are probably they are really bad, and that's probably why I can't catch a ball, and probably why I get to deal with my road bike.
So the question is, do you ever need to even think about aero bars, or just stick to drops?
To be fair, if you can make yourself aero enough on a road bike, and at the level that I ride at, I don't feel the need at the moment. It's something I might look at in the future, but it's something I've tried in the past and just didn't feel comfortable with. But having said that, it took me quite a long time to get used to riding a road bike from moving from a mountain bike. So I guess it's something that you get used to over time, and you build up the core strength and everything. I just don't have very good core strength. So, and because I've got away with a road bike for so long.
Yeah. And if you're comfortable using it and you're happy with it, it's like you have to kind of unpick your reasons for wanting to change it. So why do I really want to change it? If it's like, yes, I really want to get a bit faster and get a bit more aerodynamic or whatever, then fine, go for it. But if you're not, but some people aren't that bothered by time, they're more bothered about just their fitness and the experience of racing and having a good time and being there, and naturally they're going to get a bit quicker anyway. It's like, is it worth all the effort and the money and the to change it rather than just keep it the same? It's like, that's a kind of an internal discussion, isn't it?
I mean, I used to be able to do a 10-mile TT on a road bike in under 25 minutes. I'm nowhere near that now, because that was before I started running. And I find that I can't improve in the running at the same time as improving my cycling. There's a bit of give, because there just isn't enough hours in the week to train on both the same level you'd need to improve both. Obviously, from starting running, I used to run at 10-minute miles, and now run at 8-minute miles. So I've got a lot better at running, and my cycling has dropped off a little bit, but not significantly. Over a 10-mile TT, it's probably less than a couple of minutes. So I think with triathlon, it's not just cycling, swimming, and running. It's a sport in itself.
Yeah, that's a key thing. That's what Jeremy said.
Yeah, because that was a big thing that clicked for him.
Yeah.
And actually, he said it was actually, you are right, because there is no way I could do the sort of half marathon after doing a 56-mile bike ride that I could if I was just doing a standalone event. You can't just try and PB it all. Well, unless you're Sam, PB all 3 disciplines.
No, but there will be a point where he would prove to where that wouldn't happen.
Plateau at some point, yeah. And it's all about a balance. It's like Meg said to me when she'd done her first full distance, she said that she felt like the bike had let her down because she did the swim, her best swim, and she did her best run. But it's like, well, but you don't know that if you hadn't gone 5 minutes quicker on the bike, you wouldn't have been 5 minutes slower on the run. You just don't know. Yeah. It's about finding a balance.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing let her down on that one. That's just her brain making that up.
Yeah. She went to the Loo in T1 and she still did 6 hours.
I know, right?
I was disappointed in my first one because it was 6.5. It's like, no, 6 hours is good, Meg.
Let's just have some perspective here.
Don't say that in front of Chris.
No. Chris was the first one to message me and goes, God, Meg did really well today, didn't she? I was like, yeah, she is on fire. And Meg does not, I tell her all the time, I told her this week at the swim session, you don't know how fit you are. You have no idea how fit you are. And sometimes it's a battle against our own mindset, our own brain sometimes. Yeah, because
she said this rubbish on the bike and like, you're not. You've literally just started riding a proper road bike that I don't know where that other one came from.
No, that yellow one. Yeah, let's ignore that one.
I think it cost her a tenner or something.
Yeah.
Surprise, it broke halfway around the course, and I think she did a really hilly course in one gear.
She got one from you now, and it looks lovely. It's much better, isn't it?
I just said she used to being crashed.
You told her that.
No, only after she crashed it twice.
Oh, okay. Make her feel better about it.
Ryan's fault.
Yeah, May's got another half called Ryan who crashes into her on a training ride. That's brilliant training today, guys. Well done.
Yeah. And it's one of those days you actually set her a turbo session. You're like, why are you outside anyway?
Or Ryan coerced me to come out and then crashed into me.
Yeah.
But
so it's like, no, that bike is indestructible. It's hit a deer. You're fine.
Oh, that's good. And she's much happier on that. She loves that bike as well.
Yeah.
And
she even took the name with it. She said, I like that.
Oh, that's nice.
She's called Rubik's.
Cool.
She's a cute.
But yeah, you're like, this is one of the first things that Brett Sutton said when I was in the same room as him. Is like the mistake that everyone makes is they approach triathlon as a swim separate to a bike, separate to a run, and they swim like a swimmer. They go and they go and join a swim club. They swim how the swimmers swim, and they try and get better at swimming. And they go and join a cycling club. They cycle the same way as they do, and they try and get better at cycling. And they say with the running, they go and join a running club, and that's. You can't. It's really hard to do that way. 3 separate sports because there's no coercion. There's no overall oversight of all 3, and they're acting separately. They're not attached at all. And triathlon is, as you say, a different sport entirely. It's not a swim because you've got a bike and run afterwards. It's not a bike race because you've already swam and now you've got to run afterwards. And it's not a run race because you get to that run knackered. So
you've done 3 hours of hard work on the bike.
So you have to go back to basic principles, like take a scientific. This is as scientific as we get. We talk about basic principles. Let's break it all down into its basic things. We've got to do this, do that, and then do that in one go. So the method in which you do that to be most efficient and effective through each one is completely different to how swimmers swim, cyclists cycle, and runners run. How you've seen with like, you know, us working together, and it often means that it can the way we end up doing it can be viewed as quite unorthodox, or it's not like the cool way to do it. It's not what everyone's doing on Instagram. It's not what everyone writes about in the magazines, and it's not this. But it's effective, and this approach works because, and we've got so many case studies of how it has happened. Because we get questions a lot, don't we? Why do you always swim with a pool boy? Those pads are weird. Why are you using those?
You look a little bit like I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of a bamboo shrimp, but they've got these things for catching things in the water. I always think I look like a bamboo shrimp when I'm wearing this.
Because we have these massive net pads, don't we? These
Yeah,
mesh
they're not
things.
little ones; they're huge.
They're absolutely enormous. And other coaches, like I know they've said they've questioned you guys and gone, shouldn't wear them. Why are you wearing them for? That's And so there's a lot of weird stuff that comes with being a bit different and unorthodox, shall I say. Even the running, like how you're taught how to run through England athletics is that lean forward from the ankles, as if you're running a track race or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of triathletes try and run like that, and it's kind of hard to do that when you're so tired. So we run really upright, like perpendicular to the ground.
We try to. I don't think I necessarily manage it very much.
No, you got a lot better at it. A lot.
Well, if I'm thinking about it, so when I get really tired, I just can't be bothered anymore. It's just get this over with.
Yeah. So it's.
But, I've got really rounded shoulders, and it becomes quite obvious when I'm very tired.
Yeah, because your head goes forward a bit, doesn't it? And you can get.
And if I've spent 3 hours on the bike, then I'm very tense up here. So running upright is I can run upright easier if it's just a running race, but if it's a triathlon, I generally don't look very upright by the time I finish.
But you're a lot more upright than you used to be, which is really really good. So it's like if I
think it's just being conscious of it as well, because for me it feels natural to lean forward because I've always had a rounded posture, but also I spend a lot of time on computers because I work in front of a computer 8-9 hours a day, and it just feels natural to be. I feel like I'm leaning backwards almost, and when I first started trying to run upright, I almost had to feel like I was leaning backwards.
Yeah.
The same way as that when I'm in the pool and I'm trying to actually swim with my hands in front of me, I have to almost feel like they're out here because
I'm always doing that in the pool. I'm like, swim like this with your arms wide apart.
Why? I'll hit next.
No, you won't.
I did.
Well, you will, but not because you're nowhere near out here.
Egg and Sue in the same lane, and it's dangerous. One of us is going to face plant the wall at some point during the session.
Oh yeah, I'm always worried about that. I'm like, Sue, be careful.
Yeah. It's come close. It's usually go like this when I get to the end.
Oh, you're so close to headbutting that wall. So many times when I see I'm cringing poolside going, Sue, please, give me a heart attack.
Whereas Meg's actually done it a couple of times, I think, on the lane rope. But she actually had to buy herself a new watch because she'd smacked it on the lane rope too many times.
Yeah.
It always seems to be my right arm that I smack. So
it's fun, isn't it? So after all that,
the choice of being self-diagnosed dyspraxic in my case, it's just I have no clue what my body is doing half the time.
You've done pretty well considering then.
Yeah, I'm glad that I found somebody who's very patient, because if most people would be like, no, that's not what I said to do. I'm like, isn't that what I'm doing?
That's funny because I never considered myself, like in the past growing up and stuff, as as a patient person. I never even thought about it, but you have to be so patient when coaching. I think I've developed that. Obviously, it's worked to some degree.
Sometimes you'll say something to me, it doesn't quite work, so you'll find another way of phrasing it, like ding.
Yeah. So it's like I think I have my empathy counts for a lot. I have a lot of empathy. So like understanding it from your point of view. Like if I say it this way, yeah, I might understand that, but you might not understand it that way because everyone's so different. So it's a different way to do it. And a lot of people have got a lot of, they're used to doing things a certain way. It takes a lot of time to then change that. So you need so much patience to really kind of get to the nooks of the issue or whatever it is to work through it in a way that, and being impatient, I think it just doesn't achieve anything. So why be impatient? I don't see any value in it. So I think as a default,
I imagine people might get frustrated with me when they tell me to do one thing and I do something completely different. But I swear to God, I think I'm doing what they've asked me to do.
I've never got frustrated because I understand that. Yeah, if I ask you to do something verbally, but then physically do something else, that isn't your fault. That is just because that's how your brain has interpreted that information and then put it into an action.
But I also feel that sometimes I think my body's I'm doing what you've asked me to do.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like when you said if you imagine your arms are out here,
they're not going to be there.
Not actually, in reality, they're where they need to be. Because I'm so used to swimming in a small space like this, it feels like that they are way out here when in reality they're in front of
me. And that's when I can check you. You go, Ali, I think I'm swimming like Jesus on a cross right now. What is going on? I'm like, well, you might think you're doing that, but what you're actually doing is you're swimming exactly how I want you to swim.
Yeah.
And your arms are actually shoulder width apart. Your hands are shoulder width apart when they go in, which is great.
But if you're not used to swimming like that, used to crossing your hands over the midline, then it will feel like your arms are out miles out, when in fact
it will feel so much more extreme than it actually is.
Which again, for me, when I'm running upright, it feels like I'm leaning backwards.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to leaning forwards from the waist, not from the feet.
Yeah.
I remember reading online, it said, lean forward slightly. I'm like, no problem with that.
Yeah. And then, it's the danger then is you can be like, I have a 90-degree bend from the hip at the end of the race because you've been leaning more forward, more tired. As more tired you get, you're like...
On a triathlon, I start already half done. I've been on the bike for so long.
You see it sometimes, don't you, at the finish line, where people are so bent over from the hips because they're... But if it makes sense, doesn't it? If you're upright and you're efficient, you can hold that for the whole thing, and you can keep some kind of form going. If you're like a very special person who can hold that nice lean forward for the whole thing, then great, go and do it. But not many people can. Most people can't really hold that effectively.
And if I'm leaning forward, you can guarantee it's going to be from the waist, not from the ankles.
Yeah. You'll be bent. Yeah. So then you went on to a full distance triathlon.
I kind of sent you a message one day. I said, silly question, but do you think I'd be capable of doing a full distance? Like with maybe another 6 months training? I said, I think you could do one now. Oh no, not now.
Oh, you could get round one now, and and then you did it, and it was all...
I did.
How did it go?
Wow. I really enjoyed the swim, and I really enjoyed the ride until it started raining. The run was a different experience. It's a very long way on tired legs. I remember getting off the bike, and it was absolutely tipping it down at that point, and thinking, oh my God, now I've got to run for probably about 4.5, 5 hours.
Yeah.
And
it becomes a Lord of the Rings quest.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now there's nothing in between a half and a full. It's not a 3/4 distance. It's just and they're very, very, very different beasts.
Yeah,
you can't approach a full the same way you would a half.
How did you feel? Did the way you trained for it help?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you feel we did differently in terms of training when we trained for the half and the marathon at the same time to training for the full one? What did you kind of feel about it?
I'd actually say I probably did less running. Actually training for the full distance. I think there was a lot more. I did longer swims. The swims were definitely a bigger focus. And also I did a lot longer but not as intense rides. And then I was doing runs on tired legs. I think that's very different really from what I was doing when I was training simultaneously for the half and for the marathon. I have trained, like when I was training with you, I started training with you in January 22.
Yep.
Well, obviously I was training with the swing before that, but
like properly having your everyday session planned.
Coach, and I feel that we trained differently for that first marathon and half. I would think I was doing more running then than I possibly was this time round. Not saying that that's any criticism, because I did better at Boston than I did at Manchester. But I feel like my training shifted a little bit back towards the swimming and the cycling for the full distance.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing is, it is legitimately okay to walk a large proportion of the marathon on a night. I was like really disappointed
Different beast, isn't it?
when I had to stop running and walk 11 miles in. So I'm not even halfway round the marathon yet, and I'm having to walk.
Yeah.
But actually, legitimately, most people were walking by that point.
Yeah. And it's different,
apart from the winners. But
it's a whole different approach. It's interesting because like I've got in my head the approach I'm taking with the training. That it's interesting to hear like afterwards how you felt it went as well. It's quite because it is different. You would because before you did a marathon on its own, so it's like Sue wants to go and perform at this marathon, so let's focus a bit on that and let's try and get her a good performance at the marathon, but then leave her in as good a position as we can after that to go and do that half the middle distance triathlon and still do good okay at it. And then, so you're kind of like mixing in run training and triathlon training a little bit. But then when you do the full distance, it's like, okay, we are just doing triathlon training now. We haven't got to think about any other run race or anything. We're just doing training. Yeah. And it's your first one as well. So obviously it's just going to be a bit of personal discovery.
I genuinely just went into that one saying I just want to get around it.
Yeah, which is perfect because there's nothing you can't prepare for your first full distance. I've not done one, but I've not done one, but I can still very much appreciate that it is a completely different sport because I see it. I've seen it as much as I can without actually physically personally doing one yet. Yeah, and I've helped so many people get to it and do one, and it just completing it and getting around in one piece is a massive feat. And your first one is what you should do anyway.
Yeah, I think actually there was a very short period of time where I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to, once I'd sat down, get back up and finish it. But once before I sat down, I took a gel. And after I'd been sat down for 10 minutes, the gel kicked in and I was actually able to run the last mile of it after having walked the majority of maybe the second half of that marathon. So I know that a lot of that was down to fueling.
Yeah. And as we said earlier, like it takes a lot of practice at doing that same distance to take on more and more fuel, doesn't it? It's really...
And I drank loads more than I would normally drink on bike because I was really conscious, making sure that I was drinking, because it was a hot day up until the point you actually bucketed it down with rain. And it was, and I was making sure I got my little pouch of the go-to Saurine in the front of my bike. And I was like, I'm not gonna put it in my back pocket because that didn't work for 113. I couldn't get it out the plastic bag. So
don't put it in
front.
Don't unwrap it and put it in your pockets before the swim like Sam did, so it's all mush afterwards.
No, that was those gel sweets, wasn't it?
I don't know what it was.
And they melted.
It's like got a handful of mush.
I saw these online, they look really good. And they were like those gel, like energy gels, like really concentrated, but they just melted. It was just a sticky mess.
But yeah, it'd be interesting, like if you ever do another one, I don't know if you booked another one, you might have done another full, Remind me when it is.
Literally, it's basically a year after this one because it's the same one again, but a slightly different course.
Okay. So so the challenge, you could go, all right, how much more solids can I get on? How much more can I eat on the bike? Just feast. Somebody who
spent the majority of their teens and early 20s with an eating disorder, that's just such a foreign concept.
Yeah, I can imagine it takes a lot of mental work
but you kind of realise that if you don't take in enough calories, you're just not going to complete it.
That's why I call food fuel. I change the narrative. It's like all you're doing is fueling your body to go and perform and do what you want it to do. Don't even think about it as anything different than that. Yeah. Because then it's a different way of doing it, and it can be less triggering.
You know, I think the thing is that you can I think actually doing the longer bike rides, because I used to do quite a lot of sportifs, and if you do 100 miles, you're on your bike for 6 hours. You have to be getting yourself through about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 calories, depending on how hilly and how fast you're going. So that was it's really in my early 30s where I started seeing food more as fuel. And don't get me wrong, I do like my fuel to taste nice sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's something that you just don't have. I don't have the hang-ups on it anymore. I just sort of if I need to eat, and believe me, Si's like, you've eaten all our cereal bars.
So
while I'm training, I need to eat loads because I'm always hungry. And it's like, oh, I'll go and buy some more. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't stop eating. Don't start eating less. Just buy some more.
I mean, it is. I part of the thing about working at home is I can actually now. Every time I go to a coffee, I just go for a coffee. I just have to open the cupboard and look what's inside it and take something out and eat it, because if I'm hungry, I obviously need it.
Yeah.
You know, and you sort of listen to your body a bit more.
Which ties in, isn't it? The way we train and our approach to food and sleep and energy levels in general.
But I think with any exertion, anything that's over a long period of time, like a 100-mile bike ride or an Ironman or even I suppose a marathon to a certain extent, after you get to a certain point, if you haven't taken the calories in, your body goes, I don't want any more calories, thank you very much. And you get to the point where you can't face even a gel because you just feel ill at the thought of it.
So you kind of have to,
and then you've gone too far.
Yeah, so you kind of have to start early, don't you? Start early, override. Like once you start, it's easier to carry on going.
Yeah.
But leave it too long, your body goes into that mode of like conservation, doesn't it? And like, okay, I understand you're not feeding me now, so I'm just going to find a different way to fuel myself, and then it stops wanting food.
I tried those the ginger gels. Active root, is it?
Active root. They don't do gels, do they? Do they do? Oh yes.
Well, no, they do that gel mix.
Yeah, they do the gel mix.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, I tried that for the very first time when I did that event. So I had the active root in both my drinks bottles.
Yeah.
And then obviously when that got replaced, it got replaced with High Five because that's what the event organizer was
Which
doing.
is worse.
Well, my body works quite well with High Five because I've always used High Five.
I have to say that because, I am kind of with Active Root a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're good.
I actually did find the Active Root was really, that gel was really good because I had like a squashy flask, like a really big
I learned from that because you told me that, and I'm going to do the same thing.
I made it a really dilute one and I was just literally sipping it. And I think it was around the point that I ran out of balance that I ended up starting to walk.
Because you get given,
it's obviously good stuff.
Because you get given the small little, your own.
Yeah.
Because I forget it's even a gel because it doesn't come in a standard gel thing. It's like you have to make it yourself with your little pouch. But then, and I never thought about why don't I just use my bigger pouch, my like bladder thing, and just make a massive gel in that. And you mentioned
you probably have to still drink water alongside it because I suppose if you make it watery enough,
I put a little bit more water in it. So
I did with this flask just to
so it was all right for me to just have the gel then. And I thought that's a good idea. Like, let me take like a litre and a half, like 750 ml. I don't know how big the bladder is. Then when you put on your back,
no, aren't they 2 litre?
I don't know. I can't remember how big mine is.
That's a lot for a gel.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I can't remember how big it is. But if I fill one of those up with that gel and make it a bit more watery, I thought that's a good idea because I can get so much fuel in that as well, and I would love that.
Yeah. And actually, you get to the point where you don't even want to expend any energy chewing anything.
Just get it in me.
Just stick your arm out like this.
Well, when I eat saurine malt loaf on the run, I don't chew it. I take the lunchbox ones, the lunchbox sizes. I just I bite half of that off, and then I split it in half, and that in half again, and then I just leave each of those bits in either cheek, and it dissolves with my saliva.
I didn't try that, but there's the banana one's a little bit easier because it's a bit softer.
Yeah, banana and apple are the ones that I can't do the normal one.
Yeah.
Has to be the banana and apple.
I had a mixture. I had the banana one and the normal one.
Yeah.
And I could tell the difference trying to chew them.
The normal one's more stodgy and difficult to take on.
Yeah.
But the banana one and the apple one are like, for me, they're perfect. And then you just swallow it with your saliva, and it's like very nice.
This is the point where it sounds quite disgusting, but it's just fuel at that
it
point.
Works
but actually
well.
it tastes good. Yeah, I like Soaring.
Yeah.
This video is sponsored by Active Fruit
Soaring. I wish. No, we do get sent stuff from Active Fruit, which is cool.
Yeah. I made use of the discount when I bought that stuff I haven't bought any more simply because I haven't really done another event that's warranted it.
Yeah. They're actually at there's a half marathon next Sunday just south of Oxford. So I'm going to go and hang out with them there, which should be quite nice because I've not met them yet.
No.
And
I just like the fact that the gels, you're not throwing packets away everywhere.
Yeah, it's nice and it's good for the environment. And I'm coaching Will, who's the founder and who like owns it now. He owns Active Fruit. I'm now coaching him, so it'd be brilliant to go and meet him. And then we're going to do a little swim afterwards, see him swim, introduce him to the ways that we do it.
And not bumping into lane ropes.
Yeah.
Like
well, it might be a pinball machine as well. We don't know yet. We'll have to go and find out.
Well, maybe that's more common than I thought.
Who knows?
I do blame my eyesight a little bit on that.
Yeah.
I haven't actually got any peripheral vision because I wear prescription goggles. And
I know, yeah.
Obviously the prescription one in the front. So I know I just see shapes go past me in the pool.
That's why I communicate with you differently to other people. I announce myself earlier, or I kind of I give you time to.
You're actually quite easy to spot on the side of a pool, Ali.
So what's that tree doing at the side of the pool? Oh, it's Ali.
No, it's so amusing, the pictures of me stood next to you in your suit after that.
Oh yeah,
that half iron.
Yeah, in Staffordshire.
I've got to be at least 14 inches shorter than you.
It just looks like one of those, those weird old pictures sometimes that circulate on the internet. They just look like some kind of they're out of a horror film or something.
You're 8 foot tall.
Yeah, it's like, what is going on in that picture? Is that legit or has that been faked? That's brilliant.
I'm not exceptionally short, but it just seems exceptionally. That's not a word. Exceptionally short. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll be going quite a bit now, haven't we? 1 hour.
Yeah.
Nearly 1 hour 50. So before we wrap it up, what are you doing now, and what's coming next for you?
Well, I apparently did another marathon in April. Which when I did Boston, I accidentally sort of ended up doing another marathon 5 days later.
Yeah. So
I might end up doing something similar this year in that I want to enter the London Marathon to run for charity again, because the actual reason I started running in the very first place and discovered that I could run was because my niece was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 7 years old. And sadly we lost her earlier this year, and I want to run for that charity again. But it just happens to fall 7 days after after Manchester, that I'd already entered. So possibly another eventuality of doing 2 marathons in a week.
Well, you've already done it once, Sue, so you can do it again.
And this is a bigger gap. This is a whole week between them. Yeah. No excuse whatsoever. And again, another iron distance. And I probably will end up doing 113 again, because I'm hoping. Are you going to get the team doing it again?
Yeah, I think really, so. Sam's already asked me.
It was such a great event with everybody there.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. And so I can share a link to all the team, which is different to last year, so everyone can pay themselves, but you get a discounted rate. Yeah. But
it was just nice. I mean, we ended up with slightly reduced field at the start.
It was a bit tough, wasn't it? Illnesses and people pulling out.
Yeah, but it was a really good day. It was nice to be supporting. For me, supporting Meg doing her first couple of triathlons. Okay, it didn't quite go the way she wanted it to that day, but I enjoyed being there with her in the build up to it, and
us being there and supporting her because she didn't finish it. It made so much of a difference for her then for her approach to the next
actually
one.
having somebody say to her, you absolutely 100% made the right decision to stop after that first bike route, Luke, because I know that I would have been questioning that decision myself if somebody hadn't been there to say to me, no, you did the right thing. And also being, it was Chris's first one under 6 hours, and Charlie got a PB, and it was just a really great atmosphere as a team, really.
Yeah, I think we should do that again. That'll be brilliant.
Yeah,
that sounds really good. That sounds and 2 marathons in a week. You've done that before. You're fine. The next Ironman will be good to see as well.
I'd like to see what would happen if I'm properly fueled.
Exactly, because you take all the learning from the last one into this one.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I know I feel in my heart that most of the reason that I had to walk a significant amount of that was because I just didn't have enough fuel.
Yeah, it's such a big part, isn't it? Yeah.
So I'd like to see what I could do if I was properly fueled.
It's exciting. Going to be a good year ahead. So
yeah,
it's been lovely talking with you, Sue. It's been a long time coming. We've been wanting to do this for ages.
We had tried to do this a few times, haven't we?
Yes, but life has been crazy. But so we have a bumper podcast now, just under 2 hours.
Yeah, sorry everybody.
They're probably
knew it wasn't going to be a short when I was.
Yeah, that's fine. They can listen to it in 2 parts, so it's no problem. Yeah. And and then we'll have to do one when you finish, when you've done those 2 marathons next year and the Ironman, and we'll have another catch up and go, right, how did that go? You're like, I'm still alive.
Yes, hopefully I will be.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine with that. Cool. Right. Well, it's been lovely chatting, Sue.
Thanks, Ali, and thanks for being my coach.
No problem.
And being patient with me.
Thank you for being a lovely athlete and a pleasure to work with. And you never know, we might do it again in the future. Who knows? Yeah,
it's more of personal problems and money reasons that sometimes certain costs that you would like to keep going, you have to cut back on. But
I get it. I get it a lot, especially at the moment, isn't it? But yeah, I'll see you at swimming or at a run session in the next few weeks, maybe.
Oh, I haven't been to the track for ages.
Yeah, come to the track. It's really nice. You can see everyone's. You can meet the new people as well.
I've just got to be a year since I've been to the track.
Right, I'll text you afterwards. We'll sort out coming to the track. All right.
Yeah. So you're going to the mountain again.
Cheers, Sue.
Bye.